We have 8 matches, 8 3-game matches going here at Kellogg Bowl, Milwaukie, Oregon. I would like to take a moment to thank some of the sponsors that made this tournament possible. Of course, Kellogg Bowl, and the great history of the two great bowling families, the Husteds and the Odkins, multi-generational families owning Kellogg and Milwaukie Bowl here in beautiful Milwaukie, Oregon. And bowling centers like Kellogg and Milwaukie Bowl are becoming a dying breed in the industry because most lanes now are synthetic. And as time goes on, we're seeing less and less of these wood lanes. So a lot of bowlers find it a treat to bowl on wood just because it's different than synthetic, the way the oil carries down, the way the oil evaporates. One of the main sponsors of this tournament the last 3 years has been Be Young RV, which is on McLaughlin and Gladstone. Also, Reese's Fine Foods. Thank you, Jason Lauer, for that. The King, Western Beverage, and one of my favorites, Pietro's Pizza, next door to Kellogg Bowl. Also, Milwaukie Bowl is a sponsor. Clearwater Environmental. I believe that's Rocky Oatkins' company. Shout out to Rocky. I used to work with Rocky here at the desk back in the late 80s.
Okay, bowlers, get you to hold upon your practice, please. Please reset those machines for the first cycle if necessary. These tournaments couldn't happen
Thank you.
for really good sponsors, and we have quite a few.
Thank
Be
you.
Young RV, Research.
All the bowlers are handing me their bio sheets now.
Pietro's, Storm and EBI helped us out. Clearwater Environmental with the trophy as well.
Thank you.
Couldn't do this with our sponsors, and it's greatly appreciated. Also, the owner, Bill Oaken here, and his staff at Kellogg Bowl do an outstanding job.
Thank you.
Mike Humphreys, Dave Reed, Brian Schmidt on the live streaming. Couldn't do it without these guys. They do a really good job. Okay, guys, 3 games, total pins. You are responsible to check what time you bowl next. Be sure to check the boards, remember? Check those boards, please. And all recaps to the tournament office. Get your arrows up, your next shot counts for score. Good luck and good bowling.
And with that announcement from the Hall of Fame PBA player Dave Husted, we begin the first shots of round 1 of the winner's bracket, second squad. John West versus Nick West in front of us. And this here is kind of a special match because, as it turns out, John and Paul West have bowled ever since the 70s in the Milwaukie area, and John's turning 50 this year. I believe Paul is in his 50s, and we have a rare situation here where Paul's son, Nick, is bowling against his uncle, John West. Many of you know John West has had 5 second-place finishes in the Portland Masters. He recently won an OBA. He's a very tough left-handed player, very talented, and he's going to see if he can teach his nephew a lesson by beating him here in the first round. Nick was the higher of the 2 seeds, 14th, and John qualified 19th last weekend. 141 players bowled 10 games across the house. We have taken the top 32 bowlers into match play. The cut score was 115 over, a 211 average to make the top 32 finals. We have an alternate, Nathan Davis, 33rd place at 112 over. It took a score of 75 over to get the last check in 40th place. John coming up light. They're leaving a 3-pin, so it starts off with a strike and a spare most likely. Over here on the left lane, we've got Andy Solberg taking on red hot Ian Willard, who just came off his first OBA title at Malala Bowl. Great shot there by Ian. I know David Houston, he mentioned some of the sponsors. A few of them that I missed there were the R&B Sales, Storm Bowling Products, Ebonite Bowling, EBI, Bowling Directions Pro Shop by National Senior Tour winner, multiple time winner, Ron Morton. And we see a open early by Nick West, giving his uncle an early 13-pin advantage. Willard covers the 10-pin nicely there, and Ian qualified second in this tournament. He was 354 over for 10 games last weekend, only to be beat by Eric Jensen. Pretty impressive. Large field of 141 players. Ian began the tournament with a 299 last Saturday. And Fats Andy Solberg. Early double. And John West now going to get a double against his nephew. John opens up here with a 23-pin lead. Nice shot there by Ian Willard. Let's pan over here to some other matches. And let's take a look at the bowling pants. Dan Jackson is wearing plaid pants. And we have Switchfoot Rob Edwards. Rob Edwards and Dan Jackson have bowled a lot of OBA doubles tournaments together. Dan likes to play the inside line. Fantastic left-handed player. Mark my words, Dan Jackson will win this tournament one of these years. And Andy trips out. High hit there. And we got a flat 7 by Dan right there. Looks like he fell off that shot a little bit. So the match is in front of us right now. On the left, we've got Dan Jackson Jr. versus John Jordan. And on the right, we've got Rob Edwards bowling against Jordan Jung, who I believe is from Canada. I know that there is a team of bowlers who have won some of the big Swiss tournaments up there in Seattle. He's part of that. And currently, Dan is tied with John Jordan through 6 frames. Both are going at a 219 clip. Dan leaves another half 7 pin. On the far left, we've got John West going dead flush there over on lane 11. Canadian Jordan Jung here. Also wearing the plaid pants. Another very talented player. I believe he might live in Vancouver, BC, maybe Seattle. I'll have to look at his bio. And right here, John Jordan can open up an 11-pin lead on Dan Jackson if he throws a 4-bagger. And he leaves a solid 10. Let's switch over to the camera and see how John West is doing. Beautiful shot. And John's really taking it to him. He's not the nice uncle. He's like, I don't care if you're my nephew. You're not my friend right now. I'm ready to win this tournament. Ian Willard here to take a nice sizable lead if he doubles. And he packs a 9-pin. So currently that match with Ian, he's going at a 218 clip. But Andy Solberg just opened in the 8th frame. He's going at a 184 clip. And I've just posted the results of round 1 to the Northwest Bowlers site on Facebook. And I am currently doing the same thing at the Kellogg Bowl website. Also, Mike Humphreys has informed me that he has started a Portland Masters Facebook page. I gave him that idea this morning. It might be a good idea. Since everybody's starting Facebook pages, might as well have one for this tournament. So I will upload results to all 3 of those pages that I just mentioned at the end of each round. John West. 10th frame, and he packs it. Got a potential 259 game. I'm sure that his nephew knew he was going to have his hands full. I mean, John has really probably the most lengthy history in this tournament. He's made second place 5 times, but even when he's not second place, he's always making the cut. Definitely one of the best left-handers ever in the Portland area, John West. And I believe he's turning 50 this year. So look out, Northwest Senior Tour. As if you didn't think the Northwest Senior Tour already had too many good lefties, here comes John West. So we've got some really good ones up here in the Northwest that are aging. Okay, so now we're going to take a look down at the low end of the house. And John finishes with a 258. And let's go down to the low end of the house. And at the low end of the house here, we've got 2 guys from the Puget Sound region. We have Scott Halverson, who's originally from Alaska. Pro Shop, I believe he works at Mean Dean's Pro Shop. He works at Dean Richards. Pretty accomplished player, Scott. He's on 3 and 4 on your far left. And then on 5 and 6, we've got the King. Oh, wait a minute. The King's on 7 and 8. Jason Lauer is up right now on lane 7. Let me see if I can get a camera down to the lowest end here. Ooh. And Jason's going to open in the 10th, leaving a 2-8-10. Jason's bowling against Nick Spellman. Okay, I'm back. I was running around grabbing all the bio sheets. I'd like to give everybody a shout out who brings me a bio. I don't have all of them, but I'll start going through some of them. Thank you very much. So the match that we're looking at right now, this is at the low end of the house. It's Scott Halverson versus Marcus Winkelpleck. And the Winkelpleck family is another family that's synonymous with the Portland area and history. Lots of good bowlers from that family. Marcus happens to be the son of Jim Winkelpleck, who now lives in Nevada. And let's take a moment to talk about the achievements of Scott Halverson. He lives in Lakewood, Washington, but is from Anchorage, Alaska. He has one PBA title, one OBA title, and he has finished second in the Portland Masters. And if I remember correctly, Scott, he got second in the Portland Masters and then turned around and won the Central Washington Masters shortly thereafter, literally like a week or two later. So Scotty can get on a roll. He won $4,000 in the Alaska 700 Club tourney. He won the Seattle Masters in 2011, Tacoma Masters 2013, the Tri-City Masters in 2013. That was also the year he finished second here at the Portland Masters. He won the Spokane Masters in 2015. He won the Northwest Masters at Triangle Bowl in 2013. And a few other tournaments here and there. So Scott has a very lengthy resume. He's on Brunswick bowling staff, and today in his bag, he's got a Nirvana, a Danger Zone 2015, and a Mastermind. His opponent, Marcus Winkelpleck, has 2 OBA titles. His highest previous finish in the Portland Masters was out of the top 32 in 34th place. So this is very exciting for Marcus. This is his first Portland Masters match play. And, you know, the nice thing about this tournament is it's the double elimination. So you can lose one match and still regain your composure and come up through the loser's bracket and still have a chance to win it all. Lifetime bowling achievements for Marcus. He's had 4th in a PBA regional event at Daffodil Lanes. He got the Portland All-Star Rookie of the Year when they used to have the Portland All-Star League. And his bowling equipment is listed as Hammer, Vice, the Scandal, and he's also throwing the Arson Low Flare Solid. And that's a very close match. After game 1, Marcus has a slim 5-pin lead over Scott Halverson, 204 to 199. So now I'm going to dig up information on the pair to your right on 5 and 6. Let's see if we can get a better camera angle on that. Okay, here we go. So this is Les Forgash right here on lane 6. Les Forgash is taking on two-time Portland Masters champion, Hall of Famer Tim Myers. So while Les is up here, let's talk about his bio. Les Forgash is also from Lakewood, Washington, same town as Scott Halvorsen. It says that he won a regional in 2015 and finished he finished 8th at the Secoma Regional in 2015. So he has made the finals of a regional. Let's talk about Tim Myers. Tim Myers is in the Greater Portland USBC Hall of Fame. He is in the Oregon USBC Hall of Fame. He's on Storm staff in 2016. He's finished first twice in the Portland Masters. I believe let's see, what does it say here? It's got the years up here. 1986 and 1995, Tim won the Portland Masters. Back then, the Masters was held at Milwaukee Bowl. I'm sure Tim would like to win here. Tim also, as you can see, the classic textbook style right there of Tim Myers, and he misses the head pin. That's pretty rare for Tim, but Tim has 10 OBA titles. There aren't too many players who have 10 OBA titles. Jason Lauer has over 10. Jim Winkelplick. Doug Wallace had over 10. Hugh Miller has over 10. So early on in that match between Tim and Les, Tim has a commanding 43-pin lead. Tim defeated Les 223 to 180. As I mentioned earlier, another future Hall of Famer on lane 7, Jason Lauer, the King, hailing from Scappoose, Oregon. I'm not sure, but I think Jason was originally from Pennsylvania, somewhere back east, and he moved out here to the Pacific Northwest, and he's been kicking everybody's butt ever since. Works for Reese's Fine Foods. I believe he's an accountant. He definitely looks like an accountant, and he's got his lovely wife, Becky Lauer, behind him at most tournaments, his great support system. She's also a weather fanatic like myself. So looking at the spread between Jason Lauer and his opponent, Nick Spellman, it was a low-scoring affair with Lauer shooting 195 to Nick's 191, a 4-pin advantage for Lauer after one game. And Nick threw a good shot there, so let's take a moment to talk about Nick. Nick Spellman coming up here on lane 7. His father, Jay Spellman, and mother, Daisy Spellman, are avid bowlers as well. I've always been envious of families where the whole family bowls. And we see Andy Solberg carelessly missing a 610 there on the far right. Nick Spellman, his highest finish previously is 24th in the Portland Masters. He hails from Gresham, Oregon. It's the second time he's made match play. He's made back-to-back stepladders at D-Lake at Lincoln City, Oregon. He shot a 300 in qualifying last year at the Portland Masters. And he's thrown a Roto-Grip Hypercell and a Hypercell skid. And right now, he missed that 10 pin, which was kind of careless. But lucky for him, Jason is not on a roll. So that match is still pretty much even. Jason's going at a 195 clip, while after the missed spare, Nick's going at a 2-0 pace. And now we have the King Jason Lauer up on lane 8. Let's talk about his bio. So Jason Lauer has 12 OBA titles. That's an estimation. He may have more. Originally from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, as I mentioned before. At the Portland Masters, he has won it in 2008, and he's finished second twice. He is the 1995 Collegiate National Champion at Wichita State, one of the most renowned schools in the world for bowling. His high series is 857. He's got countless 300 games, and he's on Storm staff. Okay, so now we're going to move to the next camera 3 and talk about our next matches and their bios. Okay, so now we have on the left, we have Ian Willard versus Andy Solberg. Thank you. Let's take a moment to talk about Fats. Andy Solberg, he has one OBA title. He finished 7th in the Portland Masters a couple years ago. This is a power stroker game right here. And that ball goes to the face, and he leaves a 3-7-10 split. So Andy's finding himself in a pretty big hole right now with Ian Willard. As you see, John West pummeling his nephew. Fierce competitor here in Milwaukee. Oh, and Andy covers a 3-7-10 nicely. And let's talk about one of the hottest players right now in the area, Ian Willard. He's from Milwaukee. He's a homeboy here. He's bowled at Milwaukee Kellogg for a long time. He's got 2 OBA titles. He got his second OBA title recently. His highest previous finish in the Portland Masters was second, and that was in 2010. He lost to the great Bill Michaels Jr. of Vancouver, Washington. Bill is probably the tallest player in the local area. Bill's about 6'6". But anyways, Willard finished second to him. I believe he lost from the top seed. I know how that is. That happened to me too back in 1997. So he finished second in 2010. He got first place in the state doubles with his father. Second place last in 2010, as I mentioned in the Portland Masters, 27 300 games, 24 800 series. He likes to throw Storm, Roto, and Brunswick equipment. And looking at the spread has increased greatly in the West family match. we have Nick West with a washout in the 10th frame. And Nick finishes with a 162. His uncle John is really picking on him. John can strike out for 279. So basically, if John were to strike out here, he would have a 192 pin lead on his nephew. Now, come on, John. Be a nice guy. Come on. What are you going to do, average? You're going to shoot 800 at your nephew? And John just crushes the pocket there. Ian Willard going Brooklyn, but still has a commanding lead on Andy Solberg. It looks like Ian's going to have about a 70-pin lead going into the third game. Okay, so let's move to the right. Let's talk about some other players on the squad and their bios. I'm just going to do the player bios here for the two winner bracket. So I wanted to give everybody a shout out and talk about their accomplishments. Okay. So in front of us now we have Dan Jackson tripping the 610 out high in the 9th frame. Key shot. He's got a commanding lead on John Jordan. And early on here, we're seeing some left-handed dominance. Both left-handers have their matches well in hand with a game to go. John West shoots 278. So John has a 191 pin lead on his nephew, Nick West. Okay, Dan Jackson now in the 10th frame. Possible 258. And he packs it dead flush. Okay, and as Dan finishes up his 10th frame, he's wrapping up this match with a potential 258. Shoots 256. So even if John Jordan punches out for a 185, he's going to find himself down by 110 pins to Dan. That's going to be very difficult to overcome. Dan is lined up. But let's take a moment to talk about the bios of Dan Jackson. Dan Jackson has 3 PBA titles, 6 OBA titles. He's finished 3rd in the Portland Masters. He hails from Portland, Oregon, worked for many years at Interstate Lanes, which I believe is closing soon or has closed after many, many years. Lots of bowling centers have closed in the Portland metro area the last several years. He won $1,500 in the Dave Husted Regional. He's on DV8 staff, Brunswick, and likes real bowler's tape. His opponent, John Jordan, who just got that strike right there in the 10th frame, he's from Ellensburg, Washington. So John Jordan, quite a drive down here. 2 years in a row, this John Jordan has made the cut here at the Portland Masters. That means he has to drive 2 weekends in a row from Ellensburg, Washington, all the way to Portland. Ellensburg in central Washington is in the high desert. Gets very windy there. But anyways, John Jordan has one WC Grand Finals win for $500. And his highest previous finish was last year. He went 0-2 in match play, but managed to finish 31st place in the Portland Masters. He's throwing a Red Legend, a GB2 Gold, a Cobalt Vibe, and a Salute for his equipment. And that solid 4-pin right there was thrown by the great Jordan Jung from Canada. Jordan Jung hails from Vancouver, BC. He was on Youth Team Canada in 2009 and 2010. In 2012, he won the Western Canadian Open for $5,000. This is his first Masters appearance, and he's on Storm and Rotogrip staff. And that's a very formidable opponent that he is playing, Rob Switchfoot Edwards, who we'll talk about in a moment. And let's take a moment here to talk about Nick West and his accomplishments. He is the son of Paul West, John West's older brother. Paul and I won the state championship for team in 1988 at Klamath Falls. Nick was just born at that point, and now Nick's almost a 30-year-old man. Nick has listed Milwaukee as his hometown. His highest previous finish is 43rd in the Portland Masters. Nick's achievement is he won $1,500 at USBC Nationals, and he likes equipment that's a mix of Storm and EBI. His uncle, John West, also lives here in Milwaukee, has 3 OBA titles, and he had one recently, I believe at Mount Hood this year. He's had second 5 times in the Portland Masters. That is impressive. He's got 1 PBA title. He's in the Greater Portland USBC Hall of Fame. He won $7,500 in a high roller sweeper. He's got 45 300s, 35 800 series, and he likes Storm and Roto bowling equipment. All right, so now we're going to switch over. Let's look at Rob Edwards' Switchfoot. You see the late timing there? It looks like he's sliding on the wrong foot, but he finishes on the correct foot. But the late timing with Rob's feet gave him his nickname, Switchfoot. And let's take a moment to talk about Rob's achievements. He's got 1 PBA title. He hails from Vancouver, USA. He has 1 OBA title. His highest finish in the Portland Masters previously is 12th place. He has made the top 24 in the National Masters, top 5 RPA points for the regional program twice. He won the Seattle Masters, I believe, in 2014. He drops the hammer often. Rob is a funny guy. He's got a great sense of humor. And I believe Rob is in the construction business in Vancouver. He likes Motive bowling equipment and Vice inserts. And pretty soon I'll be getting a 2-game update for everybody. I know I've been going through the bios, but we got to do this once. And Jordan Jung just flagged that spare, so Rob Edwards has a commanding 97-pin lead with 7 frames to go. And in front of us, Dan Jackson coming up here in the 2nd frame. He has a 106-pin lead currently over John Jordan. Okay, so let's move the camera down here to the match at the far right end of our house. This is Scott Shimming from Tacoma, Washington. He's got 2 800s, 10 300s. He likes a lot of bowling balls. To give you an example, what he listed on his equipment bio, he likes the Storm High Road, the Storm Lock, which is a real hot ball, the Rocket, the Crux Pearl, the IQ Tour, Rotogrip, the Haywire, the Hypercell, the Unhinged, the Global Black Ops, Brunswick Nirvana, and DV8 Vandal. And now we have Masters champion Ryan Losley up on lane 18, tripping out the 4-7-10, just leaving the 10. Ryan Losley won in 2011 the Portland Masters. Ryan Losley, he hails from Cornelius, Oregon. He has one OBA title. And Ryan's probably going to come up later and do some commentary. He really enjoyed it last year. And, you know, I always like to have company here when I'm doing this broadcast. And as some of the bowlers begin to fall out of the finals, they come over and we have some chat sessions with them about the lanes. And we'll be doing that later. Right now, Rob Edwards is going for a 5-bagger, and he nails it. So Rob Edwards has pretty much made it impossible for Jordan Jung to remain in the winner's bracket.
I knew I could depend on you.
So Ryan Losley right here, he's kind of struggling this game, but he's got a lead of 51 pins over Scott Shimming. And it looks like with 6 frames to go, Ryan has a 21 pin lead over Scott Shimming. However, Scott can get up right here and throw a 5-bagger. And let's talk about Ryan Losley. His highest set ever is an 842 for 3 games. He's got 36 300s, as I mentioned. 2011 Masters champion. He likes Radical Bowling Technologies. The balls of choice for Ryan are the Ridiculous, the Guru Mighty, the T-Zone is the most important ball in his bag. Okay, so now that I've gone through all the bios, we can get back to the live matches, talking about them a little bit more. We just saw Scott Shimming throw a 5-bagger. He's trying to make a run towards catching up with Ryan Losley. Right now, after 2 games, Ryan Losley has a 452 to Scott Shimming's 401. However, Scott has a much larger game in the making here. And there he goes. He trips out the 9-pin for his front 6. I believe Scott's a senior player. And over here on 15 and 16, we've got Rob Edwards with a 446, leading the 380 of Jordan Jung, 66 pin lead. Rob's got his front 5. That match is all but over. Rob will move on in the winner's bracket. Key shot here for Ryan. And Ryan carries the Dick Weber wall shot and leaves what looks like the 4-pin standing in the channel. Ooh, and Rob leaves a wall shot 10-pin. It's pretty much academic that Rob here is going to move on. Okay, we're going to start going back to the left now and take a look at some of the other matches. In front of us here in the middle of the house, we have Dan Jackson continuing to pummel John Jordan. Dan Jackson has a smoking 503 to John Jordan's 397. And Dan's already has a potential 278 here, game 3. So Dan Jackson's going to probably shoot a solid 750 or more. So These matches in front of us here are very lopsided, so let's move on. Let's take a look at John West. 5 times second in the Portland Masters. He's made more TV shows than anybody, and there he goes, tomahawking the 8-pin. And to talk about whacking him, John has a 258 and a 278 to start off his 3-game match against his nephew, Nick West. John has a 536 series after 2. So looking up there, he can shoot 257. So he can't quite shoot 800. John can shoot 783 if he goes off the sheet. Another wall shot. And over here on the left, it looks like Andy is going to go down to defeat. Ian Willard has a 109 pin advantage after 2 games. Andy starts off with a 172 and a 171, just never really got comfortable. So that match is not, a lot of the matches aren't really all that close right now. Either guys are finding it or they're just lost. Kind of feast or famine out there. Okay, let's move down further to camera 2. And we're looking here at Jason Lauer versus Nick Spellman. Now this match is a bit closer. Jason Lauer was trailing by 22 going into this 3rd game, but as the king does, he adjusts, and he has a 5-bagger now and has reclaimed the lead over Nick. And here is for 5 in a row, here on lane 8. Oh, and Jason trips the 9-pin out. And so basically, Jason has opened up a 57-pin lead this game with that 5-bagger. So now Jason has a 35-pin lead overall with 5 frames to go. Jason shoots 195, 178, and now he's got his front 6. Never gets rattled, very calm player. And Jason usually hooks the ball a lot. This isn't really his A game here. He's playing kind of a down and in line, and you know how he likes to play the big hook. So it's just a testament to show how versatile he is. He's a great player. Ball seems to really be storing energy for him. It looks like he might be throwing a high road, but I'm not sure. And then over here on lanes 5 and 6, Myers has a 66-pin lead over Les Forgash after 2 games. Les starts off with 2 opens. Tim staying clean. So Tim right now roughly has an 88-pin lead with 7 frames to go. That match is pretty much history. You don't see Tim throw a lot of bad games. He keeps the ball in play really good. Okay, so let's go to the left wall here and see what we can find. On the far left here at the end of the house on lanes 3 and 4, we've got Scott Halverson with a 430 after 2 games. He is ahead of Marcus Winkelpleck, who has a 384. So Scott has a 46-pin lead, but here's a key shot by Michael Winkelpleck. Marcus Winkelpleck with a 4-bagger. And with that, he has trimmed down Scott's lead. So Scott had a 46-pin lead. With that strike, Marcus cuts the lead down to just 15 pins. If Marcus strikes right here on lane 3, he will trim Scott Halverson's lead to 5 pins. And he does it. And so I'm going to focus on this match down here on 3 and 4 because all of them seem to be blowouts at this point. Except for the Scott Shimming match. To update you on that, Scott Shimming went front 8 and left a corner pin. He has potential 279. That would mean that Ryan Lustley would need a 229. So it looks like that if Ryan marks in the 10th, he's got his match sealed. So this match here with Halverson and Marcus Winkelplek, this is really the only one that's interesting right now. John West finishes with a 225 for a 761 series against his nephew. Okay, Scott got up there and struck in the 8th. This is a key shot in the 9th frame for Scott Halverson. He can extend his lead back to 15 pins if he strikes right here. And he gets a beautiful wall shot. You never see any reaction. Scott keeps himself on a emotionless looking face every time he bowls. You can't tell by looking at Scott if he's shooting 300 or 170. He keeps his emotions in check. Very, very smart. Okay, so here goes Marcus Winkelplek, 9th frame. He's on a 5-bagger. He's basically in a must-strike situation. And he crushes it. Marcus, a huge Howard Stern fan. He brought his flat Ronnie to the tournament for his mascot. Tim Myers covers the bucket nicely there on lane 5. Okay, here we go. We got Marcus Winkelplek up in the 10th frame. Beautiful shot. I'm finding it rather interesting that 6 of the 8 matches here were over long before the 10th frame, with really just the Losley match and Shimming, which Losley just wrapped up easily, and the one we're watching here, Marcus Winkelplek versus Scott Halverson. This is really the only close match in the house. It's a key shot right here in the 11th frame. Marcus Winkelplek going for 7 in a row. And make that 8 in a row. So basically at this point, he's forcing Scott Halverson to mirror him in the 10th frame. Let's take a look at the possibilities here. Marcus Winkelplek can shoot 257. That would mean that Scott Halverson would need a 212 to advance. So basically, he's forcing Scott Halverson to double in the 10th to take this match.
Needs it.
And he does it. Beautiful finish by Marcus Winkelplek. Nice bowling, my friend. 257 game. So now Scott has 126 in the 7th frame. If he throws a double, he needs a double and a 6 count to win this match. A must-strike situation, these first 2 shots on lane 4 for Scott Halverson. Look who just sent me a friend request. I didn't even know he was on Facebook. He must be watching the live stream. He was pretty damn good. He's so funny. We bowled a lot of leagues together. He makes me laugh. And Scott really taking his time here. Needs the first 2 strikes to advance. Marcus Winkelplek has just thrown 9 strikes in a row and forced Scott to perform in the 10th frame. Beautiful shot. So our next squad will be at noon. Our next squad will feature all the people in the winner's bracket. There will be 16 of them. And Scott leaves a 4-pin, and Marcus is victorious. Marcus, with a come from behind victory, 9 strikes in a row, edges out Scott Halverson by less than a mark for 3 games. That was an exciting match, my friends. So Scott goes into the loser's bracket. And that is somewhat of an upset. I mean, Scott Halverson was 6th seed. Marcus Winkelplek was 27th. And Marcus came through and upset him. Number 10 seed Tim Myers defeats Les Forgash. Jason Lauer, 17th seed, defeats Nick Spellman, 16th seed. Ian Willard easily beats Andy Solberg. Ian was 2nd seed, Andy was 31st. John West, 19th seed, defeats Nick West, 14th seed. Daniel Jackson Jr., 8th seed, defeats the number 25 seed, John Jordan. Switchfoot Rob Edwards, number 12 seed, defeats Jordan Jung from Canada, 21st seed. And last but not least, Ryan Relosely, 4th seed, defeats Scott Shimming, 29th seed. So, bowlers take a couple minute break here, and then we're going to come back and we're going to see some great winners bracket matches. Let's talk for a moment before I go off air for a few minutes about these next rounds of matches. We've got Hugh Miller versus Scott Howell. We've got Ryan Nicholas versus Eric Jensen. We've got Craig Tucholsky versus David Grooms. We've got Jake Clemson versus left-hander Gary Lennox. The other set of matches will be
Pretty silky smooth.
I just got greeted by the 1996 Masters champion, the great Ed Bliquet. He's here at Kellogg Bowl enjoying some of the action this afternoon. Okay, so my partner in crime here, Mike Humphreys. Thank you, Mike, for the update. I've got some final scores this round. I've got Marcus Winkelplek, 641, defeats Scott Halverson, 635. We got Jason Lauer, 639, Nick Spellman, 571. Ian Willard, 635, over Andy Solberg's 516. We've got John West, 763, over Nick West, 537. Daniel Jackson Jr. is the highest set thus far in this tournament with a crushing 781 series over John Jordan's 650. Switchfoot Rob Edwards, 690, easily defeats Jordan Jung's 562. And Ryan Losley survives the run by Scott Shimming. Scott Shimming goes front 8 that last game, leaves a corner pin, and narrowly lost 687 to 669 to Ryan. And I'm still awaiting the score between Tim Myers and Les Forgash. Let's pull that up here on the screen. And it looks like Tim has wrapped that up. It looks like Tim's going to be in the 240s. Les is going to shoot 170. Okay, so I am now going to update the bracket on the website. So look for that shortly. I'm going to post it in 3 places. I'm going to post it at Northwest Bowlers. I'm going to post it at Kellogg Bowl. And I'm going to post it at the Portland Masters Facebook pages. I'm going to temporarily put the microphone on mute and do some computing. Bowlers will begin practice here shortly for our 3rd round.